Okay, so the basic premise of Magic for Manifestation, imagine we are creating this reality. You have been creating your reality this entire time. You just didn't know it. So magic is a way, so there's a macrocosmic version of yourself and a microcosmic version of yourself. And doing magic ritual or whatever is a way to, on Earth, you take something that represents what you want and you either destroy it if it's something you want to get rid of, or you cultivate it if it's something you want to grow or create. And it's just kind of this way on Earth to help yourself, like making a vision board or something like this, you know? Like, I don't like the secret version of manifesting reality because I think it's way dumbed down. I love the idea. When The Secret came out, I was like, oh man, here comes this big awakening, because it became very mainstream. And I think it became very mainstream because it resonates with people. Well, I think that there is something in us that knows that we are creating this reality. But it oversimplified it. Can I talk a little bit about reality? So what it used to feel like, reality used to feel like to me, and manifesting reality used to feel like this stationary landscape. And I could create everything that I wanted through attraction. So if I wanted like love or relationships or someone to come into my life to be a part of this or whatever, that's something I would attract to myself. That's something that I would pull to myself, and you do that without force. There's something about when you want to create things, it's in your gut and you can't push too hard. So when you think I want a Netflix special and it has a desperation behind it, I'm not saying you, but like an example, it has a desperation, a need, a burning, you won't manifest it. It's this detached attraction because you're pulling it to yourself. Mm-hmm. And when you want something too bad, that pushes. So that learning how to do that, learning how to let life happen, that's where the acceptance is so important. So when this is not happening, got pushed back, and it was going to have to be a year, and I was like, that doesn't feel real, but I didn't give it any, I didn't give that loss any power, because it would have pushed it. And I accept. There's a ton of accepting things that I can't change. I make sure I can't change them first, but then I just let the thing happen. I don't give it too much power, and then it rolls back to me. And that happens all the time. This car situation where my car got stolen, and I just wanted my car back at first. And when it became obvious I wasn't going to get my car back, I was like, okay, well, everything is always happening for my benefit, even if I can't see it. So I got a really good deal on that car. I don't see how the fuck I'm going to get a better deal, but okay, I'll let this happen. And so I start looking for ways that this is in my best interest. And I realized that I could get a smaller car that is nicer. I mean, that car was only 16 months old, so that was part of the reason I was upset. But that was nicer, and it would save me on gas and would be a better road car. And as soon as I started to get excited, I felt myself get the wrong kind of excited, the antsy to have it excited. And then the next day they found my stolen car. And then I was already attached to an outcome. And I felt like this entire car situation was a lesson in like succinct manifestation. And so they found my stolen car, and I was upset, and I was like, nope, I will accept whatever reality here. And so I forced myself to accept that I have to take the old car back, and I start looking for why that might be in my benefit. And then there's the thoughts in the back of my head that are like, this whole thing happened for no reason. This has been an inconvenience. And I'm like, nope, I do want that new car. And it feels like I should be able to have that new car. And I don't know why I'm not getting it, but I will accept whatever happens. And then the week that the old car was supposed to be getting fixed, suddenly they found a million other things wrong with it that I swear when I looked at it I didn't see. But I got to get my new car. So it used to feel like a landscape, and I attracted things to myself, and I set intentions, and a lot of things like career stuff. You decide that you want something, and then you act as if it's not a choice. And that's the thing that that I feel was missed in The Secret. You can't just make a vision board and then go on living your life as someone who doesn't have any of those things. If you want, the example I use is if you want a new apartment. You ever seen somebody talk about how they want a new apartment or they want a new car, and then you're like, go get it. And they're like, I can't, I'm waiting to make more money. And they're just waiting for this landslide of money to appear out of nowhere, or these means to appear out of nowhere. They don't ever do it because they're keeping it somewhere that I call fantasy land, which is like back burner, and you're not making any steps towards it. But if you put that same person in a situation where their current landlord said, I'm selling this house, you got to get out, they would find a way to get that new apartment because they have to. And all of a sudden they would take the steps and the means would become available. Same thing with the car. If their car broke down, they would find a way to get that new car. They would take it out of Fantasyland once and put it into have to, and they would make those steps. And so the trick is, if you want something, put it in front of you and decide that there's no option other than to get it. And if I have to have this in this amount of time, what steps would I take to get it? And that path will just light up. And open up for you. So anyway, here's what I think. We might be Sims.
You think we're Sims?
You know why I think that.
Yeah, aliens told you that we were
Aliens
Sims.
told me that.
Yeah, which,
Right.
I mean, if aliens told me we were Sims, then I would also probably believe that. Just not many of us get to talk to aliens, Jessa.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Up until very recently, I believe this to be... there's a thing called meth-induced schizophrenia, which I do still think it was probably that. But I have started to consider the possibility that...
Let me stop you right here, Jessa. I am sick and tired of hearing you discredit yourself. Okay? You're one of the smartest people that I know. And if you say you saw some goddamn aliens who told you we live in a computer game, I'm fine with that.
But I want it on the record that there is a huge possibility that this was the result of meth-induced schizophrenia. And I also want them to know that this is how I have always... That's just what because it went away when I got clean. So I just always felt like, wow, that was... I just was higher than everyone else.
Let the record reflect.
So, okay, here's what happened. 2000 is the year.
Good.
I have a near-death experience. I can't tell you if I was really dead. I have always just believed that I was dead, because when I woke up, I asked the very apathetic medical professional, was I just dead? And she shrugged her shoulders. And then I said, what was the cause of death? And she said, drugs. And I said, what drugs? And she said, I don't know, your friend said you were on drugs. Here's where my memory begins. I spent the day with a chick who was supposedly my best friend, who got together with a guy I had just broken up with while I still had feelings for him, whatever. And I keep telling her that nothing outside of you can affect you, good or bad, unless you decide to let it. And I
feel you.
And I start running that through... I start running all of my life experience. I'm like, am I bullshitting right now? So then I'm running all of my life experience and my trauma and my pain. I'm running it through this. And I'm like, no, that actually, those were terrible things that happened, but I absolutely have the power to decide how I process those things. And it created this kind of paradigm shift where I felt like I had found the secret to happiness. And I get to the dance club that night, and I'm not very high. And now it's on meth. You don't die from meth. And I'm walking through the dance club, and I was a bitch back then. I'm apologizing to people I was mean to. I'm telling people I've found the secret to happiness.
And is this out of character for you?
Yeah. At this point, yeah.
Okay.
And that year, I had learned a lot about putting myself in other people's shoes. I see music coming out of the speakers. I can see the music. It's like colorful waves. I'm not high enough for this to be the drugs. And that's the last thing I remember. What happens next is I fall on the floor, I foam at the mouth, I piss myself. And I just saw a friend recently who was there that night, and he's like, you were dead. So I'm in this big blue vibrating light, and I am a part of it. I'm still my own person, but I'm a part of it. And it is, I don't have my physical body, and it is communicating with me, but without words. Like, my brain translated it to words later. And it said, you did what you went there to do. You learned everything you had to learn. You can stay here if you want. But if you want to go back, there's something cool you can do. All right, I can't remember where I was. Oh,
It sounds like you learned one thing.
Yeah. We're going to check something. So
These aliens have just such a low bar for you to pass before you get to go to Nirvana.
my whole life I had this sensation, this homesickness is the way I would describe it. The sensation that I was dropped off on this planet on accident. And a lot of people describe stuff like this, like I not a loneliness, just like this isn't where I'm from, and this isn't where I belong. And in the moment that I was in this ball of light, I felt like I was home. That homesickness that just always kind of ran in the background was gone.
Yet, when offered the opportunity to go back to Earth to do something cool, I was like, yeah, I'll go back there. And then I had to live my entire life in fast forward to get to the present moment, which I think is what people are describing when they talk about
light flash before their eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I was tuned in to everybody in a way that I wasn't before I had this experience. And I immediately knew that that was God, and I immediately knew that we are God. All of us connected as one big ball of light is God.
And you knew that when you woke up?
Yeah. I just, like, by tapping back into that source, I just knew things. And some things I just knew as soon as I woke up, and other things I learned in what we have nicknamed alien school. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. For the next couple of years, I was taught things in dreams by what I called aliens, because they were aliens.
Well, did they have bodies? Did you see them? Did you look at them?
They looked like their feet didn't touch the ground. Their feet looked like withered almost. They looked just like thick energy, kind of in the shape of what aliens.
And you saw them every time you go to sleep?
Yeah, I feel like every time I went to sleep, and they taught me a bunch of stuff that I used, and then a bunch of stuff I couldn't use. One of the things that I learned, according to the alien / big ball of light, is that the Earth is just a stage where we come to play a game. And we are all collectively as one big ball of energy. We are God, source, whatever. And that we come down as tiny sparks and we play on Earth. And that nothing is real. Good and bad, right and wrong, male and female, all the dichotomy, all of the everything you're afraid of, all of it is a construct of this reality that we are only playing in. None of it is real. None of the good, bad, that's all an illusion.
But would you say our minds are real?
And, okay, so every time you come down here, and then we have been coming down here, we were the dinosaurs. Like, we have been playing here forever. And that every time you come here, you get a new... Now I have all these video game analogies I can use, but it was different words then. But so every time you come down here, you get a new self, a new physical body, and the physical body has its own artificial intelligence. And that artificial intelligence is what would be called like the ego. It's its own mind. It controls your body, but it also is how you play the game.
So you were always like this?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a pattern. But the things that have stood out to me were, it wasn't the word construct that they used, but the aliens talked about like that this was, they were like the premise. Like the premise was fear. The premise was forgetting who you were. The point of the game was to find your way back to source, to find your way back to yourself, to wake up.
We had a home. A pre-mortal existence is what we had. We existed before this. We will exist after this because we are eternal. But we came down into a physical form. We put our spirits, we downloaded our spirits into a physical avatar, as you would say.
Yeah. To
learn things, to gain experience, and to return back home afterwards. That's essentially the Mormon plan of salvation. That's at its core. So, yeah, when you talk about video game stuff, it's just the same doctrine, but with different vocabulary.
If you put a Mormon and a Meth head together, this is what they sound like. Aaron Woodall and Jessa Reed are friends. Listen to them talking to Mike. Mormon and a Meth head, Mormon and a Meth head, Mormon
Now I have all these video
Say
game
something.
analogies I can use. So every time you come down here, you get a new self, a new physical body, and the physical body has its own artificial intelligence. And that artificial intelligence is what would be called like the ego. It's its own mind. It controls your body, but it also is how you play the game. You had to feel that pain in order to wake up.
So what is life for you? Is it a dream? Is it
Is life a
real?
dream?
Is it a million D? What is life for Elon Musk?
I find as I get older, I find that question to be maybe more and more confusing or troubling or uncertain. I think particularly when you see the advancement of something like video games, like say 40 years ago, you had video games. The most advanced video game would be like Pong, where you had like two rectangles and a dot. And you're like batting it back and forth.
I played it.
Oh yeah, like me too, exactly. I
That's
played Pong. Exactly. It sort of dates you a little bit, but yeah, we both played the same game, and that was like, wow, that was a pretty fun game at the time. But now you can see a video game that's photorealistic, almost photorealistic, and millions of people playing simultaneously, and you see where things are going with virtual reality and augmented reality. And if you extrapolate that out into the future with any rate of progress at all, like even 0.1% or something like that a year, then eventually those games will be indistinguishable from reality. They'll be so realistic, you will not be able to tell the difference between that game and the reality as we know it. And then it seems like, well, how do we know that that didn't happen in the past? And that we're not in one of those games ourselves?
All of the creators on Earth, all the humans that are creating this reality, they create reality with their minds. But what is known as the reptilians are a parasitic species, race of beings, and they cannot create reality here with their thoughts. Like, their thoughts are not creative. They're not gods. So they have to trick people that are actually gods into creating the reality for them.
The parasites.
The parasites, yeah.
Words are important. The words we use are important. Go on.
So what they do is they are all the ones in power, and they subtly get humans to complain about their power and reinforce this belief in their power. So that people are always bitching about the 1%. 1% are the reptilians, and the 1% are only the 1%. But when you are bitching about the 1% just keeps getting richer and we're poor and everything's great for them and everything's horrible for us, is just imagine that you are Magik and you are God and you're on a planet. Like, God, that would be a great movie plot, that you just have a planet full of gods creating reality, but as long as you don't let them know that they are creating the reality, you use their minds, use them as a host to create bomb-ass realities for you. It's brilliant. So that's where the mind
Are you
control.
talking about the Matrix?
The Matrix is about them being batteries.
Yeah, they're being batteries, but they also were creating this reality. Like Neo could make, when Neo opened up his mind, he could change. He could bend the spoon because there is no spoon, right? Like,
Right.
So those parasites could live off of him. They were using him as a battery or whatever, rather than creating a kick-ass world.
So, like, 9/11 was, according to this line of thinking, was that the people were starting to wake up, that there was like this mass awakening of people, that people were starting to wake up from the illusion of reality, and that 9/11 was a way to push people back into like a spiral of fear and division, and it definitely did that. Like, that the parasites are native to Earth. They just aren't creative beings on Earth.
Okay. that
And
makes sense.
so they haven't evolved. They're just reptilians, although they've mixed in with creative beings because they are very manipulative and they rely on mind control. I know people that are enlightened that don't feel like they come from the same tribe, if you will. Like they don't feel like, I like the cut from the same energetic cloth. They have like a different brand of magic, like they have a different, they're operating on a different like set of rules. There's a sensation that there's an enemy that we're fighting against, but I think there's a huge possibility that the enemy is just an extension of ourselves with this false dichotomy to play. I am a firm believer in stop reinforcing the power of people that you don't like to be more powerful than you. I am absolutely a fan of that. If you do not like the government, I am all for standing up to that and changing it. I just don't think that the way to do that is to echo that they are very powerful, and that's just kind of my philosophy on everything in life. I would like to pull you down off of that throne, not talk about how powerful your throne is. So I don't like to talk about how rich the rich are. I think it makes them more rich because I do believe that we create reality with our thoughts. So I don't try to create things that don't benefit something I am behind. We're just constantly talking about how powerful these things are against us, but they're not. They're not. They're losing power, and a lot of these crazy things that are happening right now are because these systems are crumbling right in front of us, and our world is going to be better and amazing. But in order to get the new thing, and this is a huge thing in manifesting reality, I've learned that I'll decide I want to experience something, and then the old thing falls apart. And while the old thing is falling apart, I will freak out because I have forgotten about the new thing that I wanted because I'm now so distracted by this thing I knew. And we have wanted things to be different for so long, and they're changing, but the old thing is falling apart, and it looks like it looks really scary. But it just, to me, I don't know, it feels when you don't buy into the day-to-day craziness, and you don't time travel, and don't predict a civil war breaking out or whatever. Like, they're losing their power, they're trying to exert their power, and this generation has the ability to burn the whole thing to the ground with their minds, and they're doing it. Let it all burn down. We get to decide whatever we want this life to be, and it's going to be awesome. Like, you are already turning the world into something amazing. It's going to be about finding what you enjoy, creating things, and living that out. But this old system has to die first, and it's dying. That's all it looks like to me, is it's dying.
The percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. Usually there'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late. But one thing is for sure, we will not control it. Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. You don't even, well, most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself. It's just that the data rate, the rate at which, of the communication rate between you and the cybernetic extension of yourself that is your phone and computer is slow. It's very slow. And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. It will be, at some point, indistinguishable from reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality. Or civilization will end. One of those two things will occur. The universe as we know it will dissipate into a fine mist of cold nothingness eventually. In the future, we will pay for it. It's just not paid for now. I don't think you'd necessarily want to be me. It's very hard to turn it off. It's like a never-ending explosion. I think when I was, 5 or 6 or something, I thought I was insane. It was just strange. It was like, I'm strange. How many things can you buy that you really love, that really give you joy? So rare, so rare. I wish there were more things. That's what we try to do. Just make things that somebody loves. Like, what are the set of things that can be done to make the future better? So I think that a future where we are a spacefaring civilization and out there among the stars, this is very exciting. This makes me look forward to the future. This makes me want that future. There are things, there need to be things that make you look forward to waking up in the morning. You wake up in the morning, you look forward to the day, look forward to the future. In a future where we are a spacefaring civilization and out there among the stars, I think that's very exciting. That is a thing we want. Whereas if you knew we would not be a spacefaring civilization but forever confined to Earth, this would not be a good future. That would be very sad, I think. If there are two futures, and one future is we're out there among the stars, and the things we read about and see in science fiction movies, the good ones, are true. And we have these starships, and we're going to see what other planets are like, and we're a multi-planet species, and the scope and scale of consciousness is expanded across many civilizations and many planets and many star systems. This is a great future. This is a wonderful thing to me, and that's what we should strive for. It wouldn't hurt to have more love in the world. I think people should be nicer to each other. Give more credit to others, and don't assume that they're mean until you know they're actually mean. It's easy to demonize people. You're usually wrong about it. People are nicer than you think. Give people more credit.